Good morning. We'll have a quick look at the river. The level is now 6.9 meters roughly. We turned at 7.2 meters, so it dropped about 150 millimeters. We're going to do this video like this today. It's just a different way of experimenting with the camera for me. And we will look at the river flows in a moment. But right now I want to look at Baboon Island, because I saw the baboons there a day or so ago and I want to see if I can find them. The sound will stay with me because I'm recording it here, and as you know, the drone doesn't record any sound. Somebody picked up that I was adding sound to the drone footage in some of the other videos. That's just the way it is. Let's just go up a little bit more and back, see the whole of Baboon Island before we go in. That's the whole of Baboon Island. And we'll go in carefully and slowly, see if we can spot them. The wind is quite strong, you'll probably hear it in the microphone. And the sun is in a bad position for me to see anything on this little screen. So I'm going to drop it down fairly low. You can see the wind moving the trees there. The wind is quite strong. The drone doesn't like it. And I have a tough time spotting anything. So if we're not going to, while I'm searching for them, I'm going to show you the flows on the river. As soon as I find them, I'll cut back to the island and show you. If I find them. Looking first at the Vaal River. The flows on the rivers seem to be back to normal there. The dam is at 102% with an outflow 238 cubic. You can see there the peak was quite high, the peak inflow was very high. The peak outflow is similarly high, slightly flattened off. That could have been a lot better if they started with a earlier release. When they saw the water coming, you start with an earlier release here, then you can flatten off the peak outflow because you have more capacity to absorb that peak. And we have the same situation at Bloemhof, where you have the rivers now back to normal. Dam is at 100% outflow 680 cubic. If you look at the peak on the river here, this is where the peak outflow copies exactly the peak inflow. And that, with a dam with the ability to control flood as much as the Bloemhof Dam has, and with the knowledge of what's happening at the Vaal Dam, this could have completely been avoided. You could open up the blue line, the red line much earlier, because you know what's coming in the inflow, the blue line. You can open it up much earlier, and then you can flatten off that peak by absorbing that peak, and you can end up with the same amount of water. And that is a gamble if you don't know what's coming, but those in control of the dam knew what was coming, because you have the figures from the Vaal Dam. Even if you don't have the figures from all the other rivers correctly, which you should have because there are measuring stations, just not maintained, this could have been a roughly 2,500 cubic peak instead of a 4,000 cubic peak. Looking at Gariep Dam, 102% outflow 700 cubic, about 70 cubic is spilling over. So the rest, the 630 cubic is electricity generation, and that's roughly their peak electricity generation capacity. Looking at the dam itself, you can see a much lower peak compared to the inflow. And that's just the bulk of the dam, and the fact that they started slightly below 100%. They continue to generate electricity fully, but that just adds to the total outflow. So it's not, before you reach the peak, the electricity generation is lowering the dam level, increasing your capacity to handle flood. But during the flood, it's just part of the total outflow. So it doesn't reduce the maximum peak level. It just uses it to generate electricity. So you have a much flatter outflow peak. And then looking at van der Kloof, 105%, total outflow 870 cubic, of which 460 is overflow. That means what, 300, about 400 cubic. Yeah, that's close to the peak electricity generation. So it seems like all the turbines are running. Looking at the dam itself, you have a peak outflow and peak inflow very close to each other. You have this gap where it delays the outflow. And remember, Van der Kloof started very late. They were continuing with the peak from the previous flood still, as the Orange River flooded before the Vaal River and then flooded again. So Van der Kloof was still letting out peak outflow. Sounds like I'm favoring the orange guys. It's just you have to remember that there was a flood just before this. It dropped slightly and then picked up again. But they were close to 100%. So this was the total ability of the dam to control that flood, that inflow. There's a question about the emergency gates on Van der Kloof. A lot of people call them floodgates. They are not floodgates. They are emergency gates with which to alleviate problems should the dam be in trouble, should there be signs of problems at the dam wall. So they're not used for flood control. That's why they're not open. The flood control of both Gariep and Van der Kloof is the water overflowing the dam and absorbing the peak just with the bulk of the dams. Let's just look at the lower orange there. Here the levels are dropping very fast. 2,000, 2,300, 3,500 at Uppington. So that 2,300 is roughly Ugrabis's best viewing volume. And that'll be about 2 days from Ugrabi's now. So let's say about Tuesday. I don't know if they will have opened the forward viewing platforms by then, because there might be some damage, there must be some sand and salt washed in. And so we'll have to see about that. And then even Ugrabi's, below Ugrabi's blow pitch is at 4,000. So that's dropping rapid. You can see this drop rapidly, about 3 days from 4,000 to 2,000. I can hear and see monkeys right across from me on Monkey Island, the one in front of Baboon Island. On the top right hand corner of the screen right now you can see Monkey Island. There's a fairly big channel between the two of them. There they are. It looks like trying to get closer to the drone rather than hurrying off. Now I'll probably see a lot more things going on while I'm editing, because I have a much bigger screen and better resolution then. Looks like the troops scampered off into the trees. Not really. Most of them are still around there. I'm sure if I got it close enough they'll just try and grab it out of the sky. That's the impression I got on the previous video. Now that didn't take too long to find them. Let's see. direct overhead view. Imagine if I had an orange dangling below the drone and dropped it here now. That's a bad idea. Now people are going to think we should feed them. Don't feed them. It's not. I was just imagining their reaction. Okay, that seems to be it. That seems to be the area they are in. There's still more of the island left, and I think more of them are probably around that side. Let's have one last look and then return, as the batteries on the drone are running out. Let's find that open spot. Yeah. Alright, so let's have on the way back, let's have a quick look if we can see the monkeys. They move so quickly and they're so small, kind of difficult to see them. They kind of blend into the drier branches. And if I'm estimating their position, roughly where I saw them was just to the right of that big tree. The big tree on the center of left now, they were just to the right of that, spotting them from my position. There, I see them in the trees there, but they're very difficult to spot. There, in the tree in the lower branches there, I can see them. Okay, but let's leave them alone since the battery is dying and the wind is not very favorable. Let's just leave it at that. There's one more thing I want to do, and that is to have a quick peek behind the trees here, because the baboons are usually hiding around here. Let's have a quick look at what they're doing right here. But this is a different troop. It's not the same troop. These are the South Africans. The other guys, I don't know yet if they are South African or Namibian. Anyways, that's it for this video. During the week, I have no time for editing, so I just rush the videos, just get some footage, get it out. The main objective is to give an update on what the river is doing. On a weekend like today, I can actually play a bit. So that's what's going on here. different kind of video, but I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.